as Carl introduced the importance of this topic, we all know that how climate change is impacting agriculture. And probably this is one of the maybe the most important challenge which farmers across the world currently faces. And most of the smallholder farmers in developing countries have very limited capacity to adapt to this climate risks. But when we talk about agriculture and climate change, one aspect is that though agriculture is very vulnerable to climate change, it's also one of the contributors to the greenhouse gases, which also adds to the kind of a changing climate. So we are going to talk about. I basically wanted to focus on. I will give an overview of this module, and also give a bit more into the unit two, which is part of this NELK module. So I also thank before I start, maybe the USAID and Windrock support in developing this module through the GFRAS, and the role of the relayer in organizing this whole work around developing this module. So the question is why this module? As I said, because it is our responsibility, considering the kind of a change, the challenges which farmers face. It is the responsibility of the extension professionals, extension advisory service professionals, to support farmers in adapting to climate change and contribute to mitigation. We are using two terms here in terms of one is the whole adaptation, which always refers to actions that help reduce or maybe help moderate the potential damage from climate change. And another term is about the mitigation. These are the actions that are needed to reduce the the greenhouse gas emissions, and also to help maybe to enhance the carbon sinks so that it is all sequestered in the soil. So if we are to support farmers to to help to do adaptation and mitigation, first of all, our advisory service personnel should understand the climate change, its causes and its effects. They should also know about the effective strategies for adaptation and mitigation. Each one is different and for each challenge you need to have different strategies, and also how they can guide farmers so that the farmers take informed decisions to become more resilient to climate change. So these are the guiding factors that or maybe guiding principles that helped me and Carla to develop the content for this module. So our purpose is to help our extension community understand the complexities of the climate change, especially its causes and effects. What are the varied adaptation and the mitigation strategies? As I said before, because each adaptation, each climate risk needs a different adaptation strategy or a mitigation strategy. And this can also be at the national level, local level, national or regional level. So we need to, our extension personnel should understand what are the different options available and what is the role extension advisory services can play. Because extension has been playing a major role in supporting farmers on a number of things. So this is a kind of a new addition, or maybe it's a new mandate on which we need to address. So this module is organized in such a way that it can be used for self-learning. So if you really wanted to learn, we are not going through because everybody cannot go through a uh, proper course in a training center. So one is we can use this for self-learning, but I also see a lot of value in the content of the module, which could be adapted by the trainers if they wanted to organize training on this topic on extension support to climate adaptation, climate change and adaptation. So the module is in general, like all other NELK modules, is organized like this. So there is a manual, which is the main technical content. But we also have a workbook with activities so that you can test your gain in knowledge, test how you are doing well with the course. So there is a scope for doing a pre-assessment and a post-assessment, plus a final summative assessment which you can do. There is a lecturer's guide which the faculty or the trainers can also use, which has this kind of a multiple choice questions, true or false questions, which is also part of the workbook. And there is a PowerPoint presentation. So if module is not merely only a document which is having the technical content. It has also all these features which could be used. So I think that is one of the One of the great aspect of all the NELK modules, which is also there in in this in this module. So we have organized this module under 3 units. One is introduction to climate change and its impact on agriculture. Second is on we go deeper into the adaptation and mitigation in unit 2 and 3. And each unit is organized as under 3 sessions. For example, now this is the kind of a broad framework of our of the module, because as you can see, because these in green you can see the study units and the session. I will go more deeper into the session one in a few minutes that talks about the introduction to climate change and agriculture, and the EAS and climate change. This is the basics which we need to get right. And then I think Carla will basically be talking about the 2 modules, which is basically goes in depth into what are the different strategies and what are the roles extension advisory services should play in promoting the climate adaptation and mitigation. And each of the module has a general overview and an outcome. But for each of the unit, we have for each of the module, each of the unit as well as for the session, it all starts with the session or a unit introduction and an overview, and what are the outcomes, what are the learning outcomes from each of them. And there are a number of cases, examples, and also materials for additional reading. This is how this module is organized. Coming to the first unit, Introduction to Climate Change and its Impact on Agriculture. As I said, this in the session one talks about climate change, its causes and effects, because we all know the kind of we have been all seeing the kind of effects in terms of changing the rainfall pattern, rising temperature, recurrent floods. So there have been so many, and rise in sea levels, ocean acidification, and this also talks about what are the causes, which are so many of them are human centered, or maybe caused by the human interventions. That also includes like for increasing use of fossil fuels, industrial, I think deforestation, industrial agriculture, changing our agricultural practices, energy consumption. So it talks about all these things. And it also explained the key concepts like climate, weather, vulnerability. What these terms really mean? Vulnerability, resilience. So in vulnerability, we also talk about kind of what is the level of exposure, sensitivity, how do you build the resilience, and also this adaptation and mitigation, which I have already defined. This session one is the kind of a basics. So it helps our extension professionals to understand these so that they can better communicate these challenges, these aspects to the farmers, farmer groups, and other stakeholders. The second session is about the climate change and agriculture. It basically looks into the explain how vulnerable agriculture is to climate change, and also the how agriculture is contributing to the greenhouse gases. So as I said before, now because though agriculture is vulnerable to climate change, also contributes to the climate change. So we are basically trying to look at what are those factors, what are how this problem is getting aggravated, and also what are its implications. For example, for agriculture, for soil health, for water availability, and also including the human risks of maybe those because of this, the climate change impacts, and how agriculture is currently responding, which many of you know, no? Because we have been trying to promote maybe stress tolerant varieties or change farming practices, maybe move to agroecology or regenerative agriculture, more sustainable practices. There are also changes in policies that are trying to support in terms of ecosystem, payment for ecosystem services, carbon credits. So there are ways in which we are contributing to we are agriculture is responding to this this climate change session. And the session 1 point, the next session in the unit 3 is about explaining the role of extension advisory services in addressing climate change. As I said before, because extension has always been trying to support farmers with respect to access to inputs, or maybe in terms of organizing training programs to enhance their knowledge. But when it comes to climate change, what are the potential roles which we should be playing, and which we have been already playing in terms of promotion of stress-tolerant varieties, promotion of, or maybe delivering climate advisory services, promoting agroforestry, promoting alternative farming practices, promoting resource-efficient technologies, inclusion, because working with the tribal farmers or people living in the far-flung and distant areas, women, youth. So we are trying to, inclusion is also very important because climate change affects different segments of the population differently, because some are more vulnerable to climate change, and also promoting market-based mechanisms, uh, and also climate resilient value chain. So there are different roles which extensions could play. And we also have several, but also this module also talks about some of the challenges which advisory services face, because lack of maybe enough functional capacities, mechanisms for coordination, which is many times which are absent, and then effects of climate change and also the results of this climate smart interventions are not easy to, they're not quickly not visible. So there is also a kind of a challenge in trying to promote these climate smart agricultural practices that also support adaptation and mitigation. And it also talks about some of the capacities that are needed, because trying to do the kind of vulnerability assessment, we need to have a long-term visioning, scenario development, and extension playing a bridging role among the other stakeholders, which are also important when you are trying to address uh, adaptation and mitigation at a scale. Because we need many times, it's not about simply farmers adopting a simple practice. It's much beyond that. Maybe actions need to be taken by multiple actors at different levels. So I think so we need to also highlight some of the kind of a capacity gaps in this particular area. So overall, I think one of the suggestion is this module should be used ideally with the workbook provided. As I said, there are four parts. One is the technical manual. Second is the workbook with activities. So to also uh, you need to also work with this, these different exercises that are being provided in the workbook, and use these opportunities for pre-assessment and post-assessment, because then we can look at the knowledge gain, and this is scope for doing a kind of a summative assessment of the at the end. So I think this is the maybe the last slide which I basically wanted to use. But we hope that through this webinar, what we're trying to do is to promote this NELK, promote this NELK module more widely. And we also request many of our extension professionals to use these modules, try to look at these modules, and also see how it could be adapted or customized to your existing national or regional conditions and widely promote. We hope this will reach large number of people, as this is an important topic for extensionists globally. I think I will stop here, and I will maybe, and I'm sure Carla will take you to the next unit 2 and 3, which are much more detail on these topics. And I will stop here. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Rasheed.